The Marvel Cinematic Universe is filled to the brim with powerful superheroes, and the Avengers brought all of those heroes together for us by intertwining the entire universe. However, some heroes and villains from the Avengers franchise just aren't as popular as others, some are even hated. So today on Beyond the Screen we're going to be counting down the top 10 most hated Avengers characters. Before we begin, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. Let's jump in. In at 10, Quicksilver. Quicksilver was a short-lived character in the MCU, making his one and only film appearance in Avengers Age of Ultron. His involvement was great, but the performance was impressively marred by Aaron Taylor-Johnson's accent, which was truly atrocious. Anywho, his accent was at least consistent, which is more than we can say for Scarlet Witch. Thank God that disappeared. Now, Quicksilver wasn't that memorable, at least according to fans, who much preferred the depiction we saw in X-Men instead. The MCU version is a fun guy, but doesn't seem to convince fans that he poses much of a threat, which I guess he doesn't considering he died trying to protect Hawkeye. In at 9, Ultron. Right off the bat, Avengers Age of Ultron was not a good movie. It wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't good, which is a damn shame because it introduced one of the most powerful Avengers, Scarlet Witch. Anyway, in Age of Ultron we were of course introduced to Ultron, one of Stark's disastrous creations. Now he's not your typical villain, which is somewhat refreshing. However, he comes across as more of a creepy puppet than a malevolent robot hellbent on destroying the world. Now, it's safe to say that the film hindered the character, and in any other movie he could have soared, but I don't think that's correct. He is a robot with lips, and his character bordered between menacing and comical throughout the entire movie, which isn't the best thing for the main antagonist of the movie, just saying. In at 8, Pepper Potts. I'm talking pre-Endgame here, but honestly Pepper redeemed herself in my eyes during the movie, but still doesn't forgive her character choices leading up to this point. Now she is a hit or miss with fans, with many considering her unreliable and manipulative. However, she does keep Tony grounded, which he certainly needs. Regardless, there's always been something inherently irksome about Pepper Potts, and perhaps it may just come down to Gwyneth Paltrow as an actress, I'm unsure. It's hard to escape the fact that any scene containing Potts is completely and utterly joyless, plain and simple. Her purpose, yes, is to boss around and control Iron Man, however it would be nice to see her loosen up once in a while, instead of making fans audibly sigh whenever she enters a scene. In at 7, Mantis. Mantis is an empath, which makes her incredibly endearing and sweet. However, there is such a thing as too much, and that's what we get here. Because of the heavy focus on combat action in the majority of the MCU, Mantis was inevitably going to be taking a back seat for the most part, just there to deliver quippy one-liners and form a cute bond with Drax. However, she did prove her worth during Avengers Infinity War when the gang battled Thanos on Titan. Sadly though, this seems to be her one and only standout moment in the entire franchise, with her character much like the rest on our list, blending into the background instead of shining in the spotlight. Sorry, Mantis. Coming in at 6, Bucky Barnes. Okay, calm down. Calm down. I love Bucky, I do, but you have to agree that he caused more problems than solved them. Pre-White Wolf he was annoying for most of the Avengers, an annoying itch that wouldn't go away. You know why? Because of Captain America. When Cap finds out Bucky is alive, he stops at nothing to get his friend back, even putting his life and the rest of the Avengers' lives in danger, which resulted in Civil War, which, yes I know, was down to the Sokovia Accords, but it was also all about Bucky. He tore the group apart for a small amount of time, with Cap abandoning the Avengers to whisk his brainwashed friend away. In at 5, Ant-Man. Ant-Man's problem is that you just can't take him seriously. In the early stages of his MCU appearances, he seemed to be there mostly for the comedic effect. Now yes, his character has developed over time, and he is arguably one of, if not the most important character in Endgame during their fight against the Mad Titan. Simmer down, Stark lovers, I can hear you screaming. Now, Paul Rudd manages to balance the dramatic and comedic sides of the character quite well, and successfully keeps up with the likes of Iron Man and Captain America, which is why he takes the number 5 spot. However, he can be frustrating and annoying, with incessant jokes during dramatic moments. Sometimes you just need to read the room before opening your mouth, just saying. In at 4, Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a soldier, a badass one at that. He's witty and emotional when he needs to be, and even lacking superpowers he is still able to keep up with the rest of the Avengers, making use of his exceptional aim and infinite amount of arrows, seemingly. However, no matter what, he still successfully fades into the background, with the only exception being his performance in Endgame, but still, he is quite easily forgettable and doesn't hold a strong presence on screen, which may be less about the character and more about Jeremy Renner as an actor. In at 3, Star-Lord. The MCU has had a rich vein of characters making god-awful decisions, truly terrible ones. That of course includes the most infuriating character on our list, the wannabe comedian Star-Lord. As we know, during Avengers Infinity War, the gang had their chance to take down the Mad Titan. However, Star-Lord successfully screwed that up for the team by losing his cool and beginning to attack Thanos before the gang could get the stones off of him, which in the grand scheme of things resulted in everything that happened following that moment. Perhaps if he wasn't such a child about everything, we would still have some of our favourite heroes, and Endgame would never have happened. That's all I'm saying. I hate Star-Lord. Coming in at 2, Vision. Oh, Vision. My least favourite character in the entire MCU. Mostly because I love Scarlet Witch and she can do better. Now, before I lay into him too much, I will say that his character design and costume is flawless. I would go as far as to say beautiful. There, okay? A compliment. Now, back to business. Vision is quite a passive, innocent entity who possesses knowledge in vast quantities. However, he's bland and more frustrating than entertaining. Quite honestly, him dying in Infinity War was the best part of the entire film, but him dying twice made it perhaps my favourite film of all time. He's morally good and painfully so, and seemingly gets in the way more than anything. Also, leave Scarlet Witch alone. She doesn't have time for romance unless it's with Black Widow. That's all I'm saying. And finally, in at number 1, Falcon. Poor Falcon. Everyone seems to hate him, including me, and honestly I don't know why. His character is fun, witty and incredibly confident, and he's more than entertaining to watch, but again, we just don't like him. Why is that? Falcon is a former pararescue airman who helped veterans through their PTSD. That's a huge plot point, but it doesn't show on screen. Instead, he just appears to be a character that is there, just along for the ride. Like many of our other characters, he doesn't stand out amongst the superhero bunch, more so blending into the background alongside Hawkeye. Even in the film that introduced his character, Captain America the Winter Soldier, he really doesn't draw much from his character. He's just there. Really, that is the best way to describe Falcon. Just there. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Are you as triggered as I expect you to be? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 10 celebrities Marvel will never hire. Jared Quinney said, "This is really screwed up." Thank you. That's sweet. Cecilia C said, "Lucy, you're awesome. You're always surprising me with new news." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Blue8Angel6 said, "Can you do a top scary or coolest post-credit scene list?" Into it. Very into it. I'll see what I can do. Chesney Lane said, "I'm new to the channel and I really like what I'm seeing. You're both entertaining and informative. Thanks for popping my top 10 cherry, so to speak, Lucy." You are very, very welcome. I am here for all your cherry popping needs, so to speak. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another Beyond the Screen vid. And until next time, see you later.